Oh.
World Cup winners in the back again, Flats?
Yeah.
Charlatans in the front?
I know. Eastern European Close Protection Unit in the front.
What if I see PPAs,
They
mate?
really do. Just in a black hat, don't they?
Right said Fred in the front.
It's like a roller coaster, mate. It's a roller coaster. You want to get the front seats.
Yeah, exactly.
It is what Flats is driving.
Exactly. Well, listen, we just get to throw up on you.
Hey, I'm an experienced operator. Have you got your belts on, you two?
Yes, thank you.
Safely plugged in.
Yeah.
Child locks on. Welcome to the very first Stick to Rugby, brought to you by Defender. I'm David Flatman. In the back, we've got Rugby World Cup winners Lawrence Dallaglio and Katy Daley-McLean. Alongside me in the front, we've got thinking woman's crumpet, Tom Shanklin, a.k.a. Tom Shanklin.
Housewife's favourite.
Housewife's favourite. Are you?
I've been since I was 18.
That's because you look the same age as they are.
I thought it was Gareth Thomas, if I'm honest.
I do get Gareth Thomas. Jimmy Somerville.
Jimmy Somerville is the best one.
Yeah, Ian Dowie. Yapstam.
Dowie!
Yeah.
There's a few.
They're all quite complimentary though, yours.
Just got a likeable face, haven't I?
Mine are annoying because I always get stuff like Jason Statham and The Rock and stuff like that.
Boris Stankovic.
yeah.
What?
No, more the pebble Flats for you, mate.
I do get Boris Stankovic. He played... Katy, I don't know how niche, nosy your
Leicester
men's
Tigers.
rugby knowledge is, but he played Lucid for Leicester for a long time. And, I don't want to get dragged into a conversation about divorce. It was very amicable, Katy, but my ex-wife once walked into a pub and put her hand on his back and said, "Hi, darling," and turned around and it was Stanko. It wasn't me. Anyway,
Do you know who she's married
they
to
got
now?
9 kids now.
Flats,
Beat me to it.
I got to be honest. We were racing once. I think it was school way, and I walked in, and this lady tried to sell me some heather. You know, go on, lucky heather, mate, lucky heather. And I told her to do one, and she went, "You're just a shit Tyson Fury." You know?
Big John Fury, more like.
Steady on.
Oh, I like that.
So on the inaugural Stick to Rugby, we've gone quite big for our first one in rugby terms. We've got Martin Johnson coming on. We've gone large. Lawrence has made the call, so it happened. And Shanks, we were playing against Leicester for Saracens, and he punched our mate Robbie Russell, opened him up like a zip. And Jono got a yellow card, sure, but so did Robbie for getting chinned.
I'm going to ask him about coaching, because we've heard a lot about 2003, the World Cup, obviously, but him as a coach, and whether or not he's frustrated that England haven't won a World Cup since 2003, or if he's secretly quite happy, like lol.
Bit smug about it.
I've got to be honest, Shanks. My rate's always my rate, whether we won the World Cup or
Not
not.
changing.
To say it's the same when it goes up just above inflation, doesn't it?
4 more years. 4 more years.
We don't win in Ireland. Where are we going from here? You know, start putting a bit of pressure on the players. Start putting a bit of pressure on the team.
I think as a fly half, I don't get our obsession with not letting fly halves play fly halves.
Dupont is a generational player, isn't he? He's turning into that, which is fantastic for rugby to have a sort of world superstar.
This Welsh supporter gobbed on me. In moments like that, you just think to yourself, I understand why Eric Cantona did what he did.
Yeah.
I felt like just kung fuing him.
I'm going to terrorise you!
And then we look at our nicknames: Melon, Nugget, Jughead, the Grub,
Bonkai.
Bonk,
Upper lip, Busshead.
Bomb, Swan Neck.
Very good.
Lucky to be alive.
Stick to Rugby is brought to you by Defender.
Right, look. I know we haven't started yet, Katy, but I'm not joking, all right? Don't block me out on the cameras. This is big for me, this pod,
Okay.
all
He gets like
mate.
this.
I'm very
Right, mate.
I've got a lot of time for this one.
Every time. And you like...
Remember the cinema? Remember I did Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
I was heaving. It was in North London.
Holloway, wasn't it? Holloway Road.
And he's like going past everyone, going, excuse me. And he goes like this. Oh!
That's not how I did it.
As he goes to sit down, I've gone, oh, Dave.
The whole place went up.
Start
like-
sweating.
The podcast genre.
Hey, this is it, mate.
It's
Brave New World, John.
It's an amazing thing, isn't it?
There's a big, I heard someone say once, there's a big bucket in the sky full of podcasts. We're going to put another one in the bucket.
Oh no, this is going to be the governor, this one.
Have done many?
I tried to avoid him. I did Coley's in.
Thanks very much.
Well,
now I know our friendship is
I don't know if you know this, Lol, but I got 2, when I was playing for Saracens the early days, I got
yellow carded twice for punching you. Yeah. And one of them was just, they're not very good. They were like body shots, I think, and I wasn't very good at it. And then we went into England camp. That was on a Sunday, and Monday morning, we went from that game into England camp. Obviously, I was holding bags for you lot. I remember walking in, and everyone was laughing because I'd hit you and got a yellow card at Watford a couple of times. There was not a mark on you, and I had a broken hand. It was chill. I can't train. Why aren't you training? Oh, punch, lol. Yeah.
Right, where's the delicacy you meant to have bought today, Flats?
The whole thing, Jono, with this is that every week one of us brings a local delicacy, and I had
A local delicacy?
from where we live, right, or whatever. So I had
Where do you live?
Bath. I live in Bath, so I had a Somerset, a locally sourced tomahawk steak.
that you had for dinner?
Well, yeah, but I was gonna.
Did you just eat it all?
I cooked two so that I could slice one up, and I
did see it on your.
Yeah, and I did a
website.
chicken as well. There's a lot of food.
You're into your cooking, aren't you?
I'm into my eating.
Yeah.
Look at him.
I don't know where I put it. I'm so lucky.
You are.
I can see whatever I want and not put any weight.
You turn sideways, you disappear, mate.
It's that cord shirt.
I know.
Slimming.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So I cooked it. I cooked all this meat. But I had, do you remember Ollie Cohn, who played for Quins for years in the second row, Bristol and Quins, Jolly Hog.
Yeah, brilliant.
I had him over, and he's a big man, and he ate it all. So it's all. But I had a backup. I had a backup, some Bath soft cheese with some like artisan crackers that were made in Bath. Anyway, all very nice. But I've got a fleet of children, and I've got 2 poorly toddlers at the moment and a poorly wife at home. And this morning, I got up at whatever time to come here about 6:30.
Cry me a river.
Heard a baby cry. My wife is a legend, but a massive sense of humour failure. And I think the words were, "You've woken her up. Thanks fucking lot." And I was like, I couldn't have tread any more lightly. But the room I had to go into to get into the kitchen is underneath her bedroom, and I was so scared. And my wife said, "Could you just fucking go?" Is what she said. So I walked out the house, and when I was on the M4, I realised the cheese and crackers. The cheese is in the fridge. It's still in my fridge. But my wife scared me this morning, so I've left it at home.
You stop off at Memory Services.
So I got some.
Pick up ginger nuts.
I got ginger nut, picked both up on the way. So I've had one job, and that's it, and I haven't done it. All right. But next week, yeah?
Yeah.
You'll do it next week. You won't cock it up, will you?
No.
Right, Jono, welcome. This is the first Stick to Rugby podcast with Defender and with you. And we're going to start with a game, okay?
Oh, Jesus.
And can you not think of this as forced fun? It's not synthetic
compulsory fun.
No. It's truth or lies, okay? So I'm going to tell you, you're out of this one for a minute, because I think you probably know everything about Jono at this point, a bit too much. Shanks and Katy, I'm going to give you a statement about Jono, and you're going to decide whether you think it's truth or lies.
He's the funniest guy you've ever met.
He is, yeah. Right. Jono comes from a sporting family. His grandfather was a wrestler. True or false?
True.
Do I have to go false, or can I go with what I want?
Well, truth or lies? Go with what you want.
Truth.
Be your own man.
Jono.
Well, that has actually made its way onto probably Wikipedia or something, but it's actually a lie. So you got it down as true.
Well, it says here your great-grandfather was a wrestler, which is also a lie, is it?
So there's no wrestlers in your family, is what you're telling us?
Well,
Look, on the first question, we don't actually...
it came up from somewhere.
Can you go to TMO, please? Yeah. We've got no idea
And
what's
I
happening.
said to my old man, because I think it's on my paternal side, that. I said to my dad, what's going on with that then? And he said, well, everyone used to do a bit of wrestling back in the day.
Oh, right, yeah.
Jelly.
Yeah.
I think technically it's a lie. He wasn't.
All right, fine.
Wrestlers.
All right, fine.
But I didn't go, there's Jono the
Who
wrestler.
wins that one? Sorry.
Right, there's no... Right,
Nobody-
that's question 1, pod 1.
How many of these is
And we don't really know the
It's
answer.
going really well, Flats.
Tell us these.
Everything's going well, all right? You're both right or wrong. Jono represented New Zealand at under 21 level, touring Australia in 1990. New Zealand under 21s.
True.
Truth or lies?
I know it's the truth.
Do you?
There's photo evidence of you.
Yeah.
What
True.
happened? Why, how come they never took you? You're not good enough.
Wouldn't get a
Came
tattoo.
home, didn't he?
Wouldn't get
I
a
was
tattoo on
supposed
his
to go
arm.
back the next year because I had another year of eligibility. And I said to John Hart I'd go back the next year, and I got injured. I got injured the end of that season in New Zealand, so I couldn't go back. We went to Australia, played the Aussies in a curtain raiser before Australia-France at the football stadium.
They liked the look of you, though, in New Zealand, didn't they?
Well, I was only on the bench because Mark Cooksley was in the team with Blair Larson, who were both All Blacks, and Cooksley got injured. They played the New Zealand Barbarians before, and away he got injured. and I had to snuck in there.
All counts, doesn't it? Right. Jono's favourite biscuit is a chocolate digestive. Truth or lies?
False, I say.
False. I think it's a ginger nut.
It's ginger nut. Okay.
I was going to say that's...
Yeah.
Yeah, he's happy with
Well,
that.
it depends what your mood
too
is,
fancy
doesn't it?
a
Yeah, it's the mood, isn't it? Yeah.
I looked at him and said hobnob.
You're quite safe, mate, because if
There's
you
not
have a little
many-
dip there, you don't have to go in with the
Yeah, it's
ambulance.
all outrageous.
There's not many biscuits you reject,
Let's put
is
it back,
there?
mate.
There's not many biscuits you reject if you're in the mood.
Here's one. Jono's sporting hero is Eddie Merckx. Do you know who Eddie Merckx
No.
is? Oh, mate.
What?
You know who Eddie Merckx is?
Guys?
You know who Eddie Merckx is?
No, he doesn't.
All right, what sport is
Lie
it
it.
then?
It's
Go on, tell us.
It's
What?
cycling. I always used to say, we used to have
Mate.
this little expression, what would Eddie Merckx do?
Yeah. That's how I live my life, man.
That's what people lol.
He'd ride
What would
his
Eddie
bike.
Merckx do? Clearly, I didn't follow his
Bobby Davro, and then if not Bobby Davro, Eddie Merckx. Eddie Merckx, Tour de France legend.
Oh, nice.
Well, also Giro d'Italia.
Giro was cycling
Well, I
legend.
was
Elite
true.
Trump.
So
Every
Yeah.
race,
he had the record over Cavendish, didn't
Yeah,
he?
most Tour de France wins, stage wins, wasn't it? Until Mark Cavendish. Was he 34 or 35 he'd won, Eddie Merckx?
Well,
Fair play.
yeah. I mean, he would have been in the lead in one stage of the Tour de France longer than Mark Cavendish would have been in the lead in all of his wins combined.
Yeah.
But yeah, he did have the win.
Okay. Jono briefly played American football for the Leicester Panthers. Truth or lies?
True.
You?
Lie.
Jono?
True.
True.
And were you
When was that?
Were you a Travis Kelce tight end?
I tried to be a bit of a tight end. I punted as well. Did play various. I could kick it.
John Heels.
Yeah, I could kick it. In the decade they called the 80s, if anyone remembers those.
You love American football, don't you?
You're
You're still into it?
I mean, in that era, people forget there was nothing on television.
It was
When we were
Channel
kids.
4 half an hour,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
There's an hour. So someone said to me the other day they watched Ski Sunday recently,
Yeah.
reminiscing about because on
hour.
a Sunday there was nothing on TV, and then there was Rugby Special, then there was Ski Sunday, then Channel 4 brilliantly slotted in the American football at 6 o'clock on a Sunday evening, and it was like watching a sport from another universe.
I used to watch Kabaddi on Channel 4 like in the
missed
morning.
Kabaddi, Transworld Sport.
You missed songs of praise in the middle, mate.
Well, it was instead of songs to play. So I've been watching it for 40 years.
Mastermind. Didn't I see you over with the San Francisco 49ers doing something?
Yeah, I did a documentary out there, and God, that was a few years ago. Yeah, it was all good fun. Yeah, so I just always liked to watch it, and it was so different, particularly where you think rugby was in those days.
Question though, so now you look at like an
can't
NFL, the boys going across, Wadey,
Reece Samet.
Reece Samet.
yeah.
Would you have done that? Would you have taken that opportunity?
Pathway.
Yeah, thank you. NFL pathway.
As a game to play, rugby I found far more enjoyable because you're far more involved.
Yeah.
It's very singular.
Yeah.
You know, this is your role, this is your job. Do that little bit, and then the play stops, and you do your role again. So rugby, I always found a far better. If someone had said to you go out and go to, I played with a lad who went out and played. He went to high school for a year in the States and
Nice.
played college football out there. So that would have been tempting, wouldn't it? Because the glamour of it would have been tempting.
Very
but-
different.
And 30 million quid a year.
Well,
But
everyone
still
talks
quite
about the money. It is an incredibly ruthless sport.
Well, you saw the cut with Reece Samet. It's, you know,
The lads,
93, then 63.
the lads at the bottom of the food chain, your contract's not guaranteed.
Yeah.
So when Reece Samet signed his contract to start, he's got a contract. No. You have to earn you then have to go to training camp and get in the squad. So you can literally sign a contract Monday. The next day they get you in the office. I've released you because they need that player, and it's very, very
Cutthroat, isn't it?
Yeah, in terms of how many, you're only allowed so many on the squad and who's in it and who isn't.
Yeah, it's a bit better.
Right. Jono's a Liverpool fan. Truth or lies?
Oh, lie.
True.
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 You what, rubbish?
Favourite player ever?
Ray Kennedy.
Yeah, oh, great man. The late, great.
That I was born.
Won the European Cup.
So-
against
How come why
Real
Liverpool?
Madrid.
Glory Hunter?
Yes, but my dad was a Liverpool fan, went to Liverpool uni, supported them. So in the 70s when you're growing up, your dad's a Liverpool fan.
that's what you do.
It's easy, isn't it? I remember as a kid thinking, why would anyone support anyone else? Because they're just winning everything.
Yeah, they're
and they're on the telly all the time. Because you couldn't watch everything then, there was only a limited amount of TV. So yeah, Liverpool fan. Ray Kennedy was a midfielder. When they signed Kenny Dalglish, everyone was a Kenny Dalglish fan because he was a superstar player. And I thought, as I always do, I'll try and be a bit cleverer and know a bit more than everyone else.
Yeah.
But Ray Kennedy was a cool cat. He was smooth. He was suave.
And our brother, sister pod, Stick to Football, Jamie Carragher, Liverpool legend. Take it you're a big fan of Jamie Carragher. Can you just say you are? Because he's sort of...
Well, I did his podcast, I think, a couple of years ago.
Did you like him?
Yeah, he's
Easy
all
to
right,
get
yeah.
on with?
Yeah, good.
It's all right.
Good guy,
He's
yeah.
all right. Are his teeth real? I've always wondered if his teeth... right.
Didn't cross my mind.
Jono's got more England caps than Lol. Truth or lies?
True. No offence.
I don't know. I think Lowell's
I
got
don't
one.
know.
I tell you, I don't know either.
I'm like that. I lost count.
True.
False. Lol's got 85. Jono's got 84.
Yeah, but in
you go.
old money, it's probably about 115 now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm off the bench.
It's a lot. Yeah. When Jono was the manager, England manager, he introduced meditation sessions for all England players in Test week. Truth or lies?
Don't be fooled by that.
No,
True.
false. Sorry.
False. Come on, mate. Come on,
You
mate.
got planes.
Suck it in
Literally
Outside
planes.
the box.
Did you then? Lowell, did you with a jet?
Did you?
On the way to England's victory parade in London after they won the World Cup in 03, the bus missed the turn-off to pick up the captain, and he was forced to walk down the hard shoulder of the M1.
It's too random to be false. I reckon it's true.
Truth. True story?
Were you with Benny Kay as well?
Me and Ben. Yeah.
And you didn't pick up a golf cart and do, you know, I
was gonna say, yeah.
stupid.
Mate,
There's easier ways.
Lucky to be alive.
Right, Six Nations, right? Week 1, you got France, Wales on Friday. You got Scotland, Italy, and Ireland, England Saturday. I remember you talking, Jono, about the Six Nations Grand Slam win in 03 against Ireland as one of the biggest games of your life, and actually one of the only times you feel the sort of the hair stand up on the back of your neck, Fields of Athenry and all that. Big day.
We actually we weren't playing like amazing rugby or anything, but we're going for a Grand Slam again, and it's Ireland away. And surprisingly, for most people, they were going for a Grand Slam. On the Wednesday, before we went out to Ireland, when we had our sort of team meeting with Woody, and he'd always go on, he said to us, listen, what you've been through in the last few years is ridiculous. You know, it's crazy. We should have won numerous Grand Slams. And he actually said, look, there's nowhere for this team to go if you lose on Sunday.
Yeah, he did say that.
Yeah, which is, I sat there. It's a big statement, right?
Said if we want to win the World Cup, you have to win.
There's nowhere for this team to. This is World Cup year. He's not picking, anyone else because this is the England team at that point was a pretty established team. There's nowhere for this team to go if you lose on Sunday. And normally when you have, we've all been in a million meetings. You don't talk about you've got to win this game because it's assumed you've got to win every game. So we're just there to. I remember him saying it. I'm thinking, Jesus, that is a massive call. Then I thought, you know what? You're absolutely right.
He put the pressure. Right back on.
He wasn't taking the pressure off. Exactly. He wasn't. He wasn't saying,
"Well, it's not just another game, lads."
Yeah. So we had that. We had it sort of added to the mindset, and we just had that thing. Sometimes when you get into big games, people like to talk about rugby and tactics and blah 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 blah. Win it by a point, you've won it. That's all you remember. When you win games like that, you either win a Grand Slam. Because we'd lose in these Grand Slams. We were scoring tries, we were playing some beautiful rugby, blah, blah, blah. We didn't win the Grand Slam. We were winning 90% of our games, but the only one people remember is the one, when England-Wales rolls around every year, the BBC have got that 99 game on constant loop.
Yeah, thank you.
Gibbs. Yeah, cheers, love.
We put record points into them either side of that game. No one ever remembers those.
Yeah.
So he was absolutely right. And we went out in that game and you think, you know what, if we just win by a point, we have a drop goal that goes off the back of someone's head and goes over. Yeah. We've got a Grand Slam and that's put to bed and we can move on. Because we were touring then Southern Hemisphere World Cup. So it was a big match.
Do you know what? When we went out, and normally the night before, you get told about the protocol of, there's a minute silence, etc. No one had said a word to us. And in my opinion, what people don't realise is that when you're speaking to a forward 5 minutes before kick-off, right, you're not dealing with, a rational human being, really.
No,
you're about to go into a proper terror.
What's the promise of imminent violence?
So we got dressed on, we got changed on the right-hand side of the stadium, so we ran out right.
Well, we also warmed up that side.
Yeah.
We'd also warmed up that side, and we were playing that way. They won the toss, and they'd chosen to play that way.
Is it mad that after all the stuff you've achieved, people always ask you about the carpet?
You normally...
I do remember it, though.
If you're in Ireland, that will come up very, very quickly.
Yeah.
But the thing was, well, we were lined up, and it was they sent out, I think it was the groundsman's assistant to ask me to move. And I was right, even that point before a game, you're 3 minutes from, 4 minutes from going into it, and it's a huge game. It sounds ridiculous when you sat there years later having a coffee. It feels like do or die. I mean, the coach is saying there's nowhere to go if you lose this game, and he's right. It was my last Six Nations. I probably knew it. This team hadn't won a Grand Slam that dominated the tournament for 4 or 5 years. It was ridiculous. So the pressure was enormous. And also the Ireland crowd was up to it, because normally we'd been there and they'd be underdogs and their crowd would be into it. The fervour was immense. And when they sang Fields of Athenry, that's the only time I've ever had that experience in my life. Before the game, you think, we're on here.
It was funny though, the bloke came out. I mean, I can't remember, I actually remember, the bloke came out and said, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Dallaglio, will you kindly mind moving to the other side of the pitch? You're on Ireland's lucky side of the pitch.
He's American, then.
What part of Denmark was he from?
All right, he was from Munster. Anyway.
But as soon as we said no first, the crowd, cause I was obviously gesticulating, I was very animated. The crowd went berserk. The crowd went berserk because they were right there. It was the old Lansdowne.
And you're never going to move then?
I just said, get on with it. Get on with the game. Because you get messed around a bit when you play test matches away from home at times. There's people want to mess you around and try and be clever.
That's fair enough.
And the Blazers are all
Leave
there.
a shit in the toilet when you walk in the change room.
You know what's funny though?
Leave a little floater in there, a little short
when he realised this poor man that the red mist had come down off of John O'Backie or whatever, he says to Jonathan Kaplan, the referee from South Africa, he says, can you kindly ask Mr. Johnson and the guys to move to the outside? And to be fair, the referees, they're not known for being terribly sort of amusing, but he said, there's no chance of these two listening to me when the game kicks off, let alone before it kicks off.
Yeah, quite.
Well, he didn't want it. Kaplan didn't want to know, did he? He just sort of stayed out.
Don't blame him. It's nothing.
It's an iconic moment.
Well,
it's an iconic moment.
But in fairness, everyone says, well, that was when you won and lost the game. But
it wasn't, because no one really talked about it afterwards. The thing is,
Did you move?
No.
Ireland
came out and went to the other side of us.
They moved.
Okay, so then they missed
So
it.
then the Irish president came out, which we didn't have any idea who was coming or what was happening, because it was just like he got a presentation before the game. That's all. And they then say, oh, you made a walk on the grass. The actual truth of it is the Ireland boys made a walk on the grass because we still had the red carpet.
But you know what? We were lucky enough to go on and win that game comfortably. But I tell you what, that first half was unbelievable. It was 9-3, 9-6 at half time. Proper terror.
I always say to people, they played better in 2003 than they did in 2001 when they beat us.
What about this weekend? So, all opinions welcome. You played fly-half for a long time. Who do you pick this weekend? Bear in mind, people are going to see this before the team's announced, after the team's announced, and all that. Sitting here before the England team is announced, Ireland, England in Dublin, who do you pick at 10?
You go Marcus Smith and you put Finn Smith on the bench. Look, I think Fordy's great. He's great at closing the game up, but he's definitely coming to the end of his career. I think as a fly-half, I don't get our obsession with not letting fly-halves play fly-halves. Like, it is a history of England. We try and move 1 to 12. We ram them into a centre combination. Pick your best fly-half. Like, if you look at these guys, Johnny was instrumental to how you played. And they were very set on that. And I think for us, I think that's part of England's problem for me at the moment, when you have different fly-halves for different things and nobody's really sure.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, going back to this point, if you're Steve Borthwick, you look at those players, you go, where are you going? If we don't win in Ireland, where are we going from here? Start putting a bit of pressure on the players, start putting a bit of pressure on the team, because last time we played Ireland, we just lost to Scotland and we were in a mess at Twickenham, and the players responded. So I think they need that pressure. I think Itoje is, he's the guy to take him over there, and 2019 was the last time.
I think we have this thing that, someone's going to produce some magic at 10. Yeah. How many times does that happen for anyone? There's so little space there. Most of the time, your 10's facilitating the game for everyone else to play. England, Ireland, opening of Six Nations. It's going to be full. It's going to be like full on speed. You got to try and control a game like that is hard enough.
I think it's that second wave though. After when you get the ball out the back, when the 10 comes around the corner, I think Marcus Smith is really good at that, of picking out the right options. Then off first phase, it is quite difficult. I think
experience is a huge thing. You when you're at test match, you explain test match rugby to people. When you've got kids, you're coaching kids, they think the game's the flash level, and that's great. That's not test match rugby. No. That's not test match rugby. Test match rugby is do your job. If you can do your job, okay, and everyone can do their job, then you might put it together to get someone an opportunity to do something. If you think it's all going to be you'll get
Yeah, but I
in the
think
big
you're
games. You'll
underselling
smash
Marcus
the
Smith
piece.
there, because I think for me the thing that makes a difference is Test match rugby is about small moments. It's about creating something one-on-one, small space.
You have to have done.
Yeah, of course,
You
but
have to
he's
have
not on
done
your
everything
to
else
do that.
right.
Yeah, 100%.
You have to have done all those other bits right.
But that's
for that
not on him,
moment.
though. That's on those around
Otherwise,
him.
you're 20 points down.
And I get that, but I think the reason for me why you would sit there is because if you need somebody, a defender, to hold a half a space, the boys' game now is about milliseconds, it's about half meters, it's not about full clean gaps. He gives you the opportunity to give somebody else an edge. 2 meters, that was a meter.
Yeah.
And that for me is the difference. I totally get what you're saying around everybody has to do their bit.
I would have liked to have seen Finn Smith have more game time than he's had up to now. Also, there's not that much quick ball in international rugby because the size of the forwards on teams like France and Ireland, it's very, very hard. So you've got to manage the game. Your kicking game becomes so much more part of it.
Kick a lot more.
And I'm not saying that Marcus Smith doesn't have a kicking game, but I'm still not entirely convinced that we got the balance right between kick and running. And the other thing is Ireland have got are unsettled at 10.
Well, this is an interesting one. So you've got Finn
Crowley
Smith isn't as experienced as Marcus Smith, for example. Whoever plays Crowley or Prendergast, Shanks, they're relatively inexperienced too. And I want to ask you, Prendergast seems to be the kiddie, but Crowley's come flying back. He's in really good form. And I just wonder, I'm watching Prendergast, and every time he gets the ball, I think, geez, how is this guy so young?
He was good against Quins.
How good is this guy? He looks
Bath,
fantastic.
sorry, he's good against Bath.
But then, against Bath. But then I wonder, there are a couple of times where he got skittled in defence. I mean, 3 or 4 times he got properly skittled. And I thought, you don't need to be Johnny Wilkinson at 10 or a Pollard. You don't need to be slicing and dicing and smashing people, but actually you need to put your head in, you need to be in a good body position. And I wonder if you look at him and think, actually he needs those 5 or 10 kilos that people are talking about, or who would you stick in at 10?
You need a good set piece, to put pressure on team's attack. Because if you're an attacking team and you've got a good set piece, I think it's quite easy. So if your line-out's good and your scrum's good, it's quite easy to target, say, a Prendergast at 10. If that's disrupted, then it has a knock-on effect. Look, I think where Ireland are a lot stronger in this 10 debate than England are, they've fairly settled in the centres, so they know how they want to attack. So that won't change much, whether it's Bundyaki or whether it's Henshaw. England is still a little bit unsettled there. So the combinations, I think, outside 10 work. Jameson Gibson Park, he's going to play. Yeah. And then, you look at the back three, Hugo Keenan's back now, James Lowe's going to come back, Matt Hansen's going to come back from ban. So it's fairly settled. And I think that's probably, going to be a big positive for Ireland. When you look at England, whether you pick Finn Smith or Marcus Smith, outside of that, you still don't know what the combinations are going to be.
Just very quickly on that game, the last time England beat Ireland, I think it was an unbelievable performance. Marcus Smith, of course, got the headlines because he last-minute drop goal, but the forwards were immense that day. Itoje was immense. George Martin was immense. Ollie Chesham, and if England are to do anything over there, their forwards.
Do you reckon though, if
they're forwards, and the Test match rugby is about, with all due respect, the big boys sorting out their big boys, and then having the quality at 9 and 10 and outside to make the most of that. And
if they win that game though, you look at the fixtures. They could go on to win the Grand Slam.
With all due respect, I know everyone hates England winning, or particularly if you're Scottish or Welsh, but the reality is, if England win that game, it blows the tournament wide open. Wales. I'm just trying to turn.
I think Shanks,
I'm just trying to turn the guns onto you now.
Shanks, without wanting to over-dramatise it, where does Welsh rugby go from here?
We're looking at second game in. First game, France. That's tough. Yeah, France away. 9:15 kickoff French time. That is going to be really tough with the unsettled team.
Commentate late night.
Yeah,
nightmare.
Yeah.
Oh. Traffic. No. It's a nightmare.
But I think they'll be looking at Italy away second game. Won the wooden spoon last year. Italy away is going to be tough.
Italy could go all right,
Yeah, they could go all right. Zebra won recently. Benetton beat La Rochelle recently.
If you're Wales, you're in Paris, right? You have a tough game, probably likely to lose. You travel straight to Rome, don't you?
Yeah.
Don't mess about coming home.
Yeah, I think they're either going to stay in France or they're going to go straight to Rome. They're not coming back to Wales. Yeah. But that is the big one, because if we beat Italy away, that is a positive from where we are.
Moving it on, predictions for the winner of the tournament. The player of the tournament and the wooden spoon.
Yeah. Okay. Top team, bottom team, best player.
So I'll go first just to calm everyone down.
England.
Right, 5 winners. Who's your winner?
France win. Okay, France win, but everyone loses at least one game.
No Grand
So
Slam.
I don't think there'll be a Grand Slam, and I think the reason France win is that they're scoring so many points at the moment with the likes of Berbery and Pinot and Dupont. I can't see them going to Dublin and to Twickenham
And to Max Mack as well.
Jalibert not even in the squad.
I'm with him.
I think France win.
France win.
They get more bonus points.
Because they score so many tries.
Yeah.
Jono, who wins the Six Nations?
That makes sense. Look, the Six Nations is probably 3 leagues at the moment, isn't it? Ireland and France in the top. It's not, it's not rocket science. Scotland, England in the middle, and
So you can say it.
You can say it. So Italy, Wales at the moment.
yeah. But everyone's so England and Scotland are trying to beat one of.
Yeah.
You know, England think if they win 4 games, they beat one of Ireland and France and win the other games.
Premier
It's
League,
not a bad
Championship,
tournament.
and
I tell you, Sione Tuipulotu not being fit now.
Massive.
I reckon that's bigger than Finn Russell. Not being fit. Honestly.
You're out of order.
If you think if France are going to go to Ireland,
yeah. So you're going just.
well, I think France. I think if they
Yeah.
they've always had very, very good players. If they go and play their best rugby, they've got a chance to win the championship.
You're saying
Everyone's
France.
knackered.
France just. I mean,
Yeah, probably just. Yeah.
That's
France,
you.
Ireland,
France.
France, okay. Who's going to finish last?
Bills.
Spoon.
No offence.
None taken.
Go on.
Italy.
Italy.
I'm going to say Italy.
Italy.
It's very.
Go on, Jono. Go on, Jono. Stick it in.
I mean, I used to have to get my passport stamped when I went to Italy because they put me into the army because
Wales and
they
Italy?
still had national conscription.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
In
Can you
Italy?
believe it? That'd be a treat being put in the
Wales.
Italian army.
Wales bottom.
Wales.
Wales, right.
Sorry.
Best player of the tournament. I'm desperate to say someone other than Antoine Dupont, but watching all the European games,
Well, it's a bit like
you're like, it's just.
it's a bit like Frankel. If he's running, okay.
Yeah, it's like, what do you do? He just looks like he's got everyone else
one
on
of
the
the
remote
French back
control.
threes.
Pinot, maybe.
Louis
He's injured though.
Bielbieri.
Bielbieri.
Gibson
Possibly
Park.
if he plays.
Yeah, Gibson Park,
Yeah.
Bielbieri.
I think
Gibson Park.
I think Caelan Doris won't be far away.
Oh, nice.
Dupont is a generational player, isn't he? He's turning into that, which is fantastic for rugby to have a sort of world superstar.
Amazing. Stick to Rugby is brought to you by Defender. Right, I want to talk about captaincy, please. Lawrence, you were England captain. That I've forgotten why that ended, and it was given to Jono.
Yeah.
Any awkwardness? What happened? I forgot.
I'll tell you what happened. Well, for a start, when I came into the England team, I wasn't England captain, and when I left the England team, I wasn't England captain. So there's no divine right or desire to be England captain actually. But Jono was skipper in the Lions in '97, which we'll get onto, which was probably one of our greatest ever rugby experiences. And then Clive, for some strange reason, chose me as England captain. And
Do you think he thought you were unmanageable otherwise, uncaptainable?
he didn't know me. To be fair, he didn't know me.
Better in the now.
You've only got to know you for 5 minutes to think who's going to captain
I
him.
didn't know him. But anyway, listen, going back to 1999, obviously we had that terrible decision that I made. I'll never forget Jono looking at me in the game. We lost because of my decision, but we gave away so many penalties in the first half that it was whatever. I'm still taking the blame. And Jono goes, "You sure that's the right call?" And I went, "Yeah." And to be fair, he backed me. He probably should have said, "No, lol, change your mind." But anyway, he backed me, okay? And it was a terrible decision. And do you know what made it even worse? We lost. It was probably the worst feeling I've ever had as a player when I had to walk all the way back off the pitch with my mates. And not only have Wales beaten us in Wembley, can you imagine? You always dream of playing at Wembley, right? But not at a home game, not a home game against Wales. And then it meant that Scotland won the last ever Five Nations title as well. So it's a double stabbing. And as I'm walking off down the tunnel, I knew it was all down to me really. And this Welsh supporter gobbed on me, right, straight in the face, right, massive greenie straight in my face. And at moments like that, you just think to yourself, I understand why Eric Cantona did what he did.
Yeah.
I felt like just kung fuing him and I walked into that dressing room, and it was like death. I mean, there were grown men in tears, and I don't know, winning and losing is very different nowadays. I mean, we hated losing. I didn't speak to anyone for about 6 or 7 days. I don't think I didn't go out of the house. Then, when I did go out of the house, I was on the front page of the News of the World, so that didn't work out so well for me. So
Should have stayed in.
I got to be honest with you, it wasn't my finest week in
Not a
rugby.
great week.
We lost the Grand Slam to Wales at Wembley, and the following week, I went deep underground in disguise. And Jono was made England captain.
You're still here though, mate, aren't you?
Yeah, the news of the world aren't.
Correct. Correct, mate. So you get made captain, Jono, and I think there's a. Did you? What happens is when people look back on your career and while you were captain, they say, "Well, your obvious choice, obvious leader." Was that? Did you feel like you don't want to call yourself an obvious leader, but did you slip quite comfortably into that role of man amongst men?
I think what people don't realise is that I was still me when I wasn't captain, and Lawrence was still him when he wasn't captain. So we still did the same job, more or less, in the team. He still, we've all got our own personalities and the way we do things. So Lawrence would still speak in team meetings and on the field and whatever, and I would do my job, and other senior players would do their job. How teams work often, particularly then, maybe it's a bit more structured now, is they just do. Guys, come in, they just take roles as they sort of fits their personality. Some guys are very, very quiet and they won't say anything, but they'll lead with their actions and what they do. And Richard Hill would be a classic example of that.
Did you speak to Lol before once that kind of change had happened? Did you guys have a conversation, or it was just like, Martin's in, I'm going to follow him now?
Well, you didn't go on tour, did you? You didn't go to Australia. So
Summer off, was it?
He wasn't with us.
Well, so. Again, I was on a charge of bringing the game into disrepute.
So we didn't sing. I think I spoke to you briefly on the phone before.
Went to Thailand for a bit.
And then when we came back, it was sort of we just get on with the World Cup camp really. So it was.
I mean, to be fair, listen, it was. How long were you captain of Leicester? I mean, I've been captain of Wasps for. I was made captain in 1995, and I was captain right the way through to 2007. So, you were captain of Leicester for a long, long time. I mean, I think there should be a ruling that every club in the Premiership should be captained by an England player, and you get that experience because being a captain, yes, everyone does their jobs, but it is something that you can become better and better at the more you play, because you become a better rugby player and you've got good people around you. And I don't think England have had anywhere near enough leadership within the senior playing group for a long, long time. Maro Itoje's only just become captain of Saracens. He's a world-class player, but he's still, still finding his way in terms of how to.
Before like 2005, we used to look at like when we'd play England, and we'd look at the players on the team sheet. There'd be like Jono, Lol, Hilly, Backy, Greens, Tins, and then we look at our nicknames. It'd be Melon, Nugget, Jughead, the Grub,
Bonkai, Swanky upper lip, Busshead,
Bomb, Swan Neck.
Very good. Do you remember we walked into the Welsh dressing room and somehow they had these
we had them, didn't we?
Life-size cutouts, right? Of the entire Welsh.
On the Friday when he did he went to the stadium on the Friday for a little look round.
Of the entire Welsh team.
Went in the changing room and all the cutouts were in the changing room.
Trying to scare you.
Yeah.
Do you look back to 03 and you're there? You play. I think I'm right in saying you play every minute of every game. Yeah. Has there ever? I've never thought of this until today. But you were England captain, then you weren't, but you're still in the team. Jono's captain. He's the person who lifts that World Cup. Is there any part of you that thinks that could have been me, or does that not enter the mind?
No, don't be silly. Of course it doesn't. I'm a proud Englishman. Doesn't matter who. And then, to be honest, Jono looked very awkward lifting it up.
You're not great above this.
It's not like, listen, he's got a lot of experience lifting trophy. I promise you now, Jono's absolutely right. In that changing room, if I had something to say, I didn't need to be captain.
Exactly. Yeah.
And vice versa. We had so many players who'd all captain. Johnny was captain at Newcastle, Phil Vickery was captain at Gloucester, I was at Wasps, Matt Dawson was captain at Northampton, Jono was at Leicester.
We'd been together as a team a long, long time as well. So you can be bored of listening to people after a while.
Yeah. What I did realise is that the relief of winning that tournament, a bit like everything else, was it was just there. And when we were in that dressing room afterwards, I think we've all said this a couple of times. I knew that was the best feeling we ever had, because it'd been a long journey, 6 years from 97 to 2003. We get in that dressing room, we shut the door. Eventually, John Howard's thrown the medals on us, and there was no camera phones. There was none of that nonsense going on. There was just unbridled joy and happiness.
You and your mates. Yeah.
I mean, there were people in tears. There were people, just so happy, and you just wanted to hold on to that, because for that hour, you knew that as soon as that door opened again and we walked out, that our lives would change it. I mean, you know, he walked out and retired the next week, I think. And,
Right at the top.
Yeah.
I think when in terms of captaincy, that's as easy as it gets, because you're dealing with a hugely experienced, settled team. We all knew each other. Management knew each other very well. So you've worked out all those little bits that need to be worked out and gone through those bits there. So in terms of a captaincy, it was easy because everyone knew what they were doing. You've got senior players. When you're in, you know, last year with Wales, captaining that team.
That's hard work, yeah.
Yeah, that's coaching and captaining when you're with teams like that. You're all young. No one really knows. No one's done it.
No one wants to speak up.
Well,
They haven't been there.
No.
yeah.
I want to ask you about England's captaincy in a sec, but
That's difficult.
While we're talking about England winning the World Cup, you won it, and these guys talk about unbridled joy, relief. I've spoken to Johnny Wilkinson a lot about it, and it was oddly a massive relief and an anticlimax at the same time, because hang on a minute, this thing that's been there, this aim, this goal, this life goal is suddenly gone. So what did you feel? So you're in the change rooms and everything's, I'm sure, you know, there's the old smartphone knocking about, but it's just you and your mates. It's you and the girls and the backroom staff who are your mates. They're your, you know, would you describe it in similar ways?
Yeah, it is so similar. And the things you talked about, leadership group in the team, we'd lost in 2010. There hadn't been a lot of changes. So the group itself, the dynamics, that leadership group, very, very similar. We'd work through all the like clunky bits to know each other, knew when somebody needed to take, just because you didn't have a title, you could speak. Like, it was very, very similar. But yeah, I think for me, it was an overwhelming relief. Like, England hadn't won a World Cup for 20 years. New Zealand had beaten us 3 times prior to that, then faced Canada. But it wasn't, Johnny describes it as a, like you say, anticlimax. For me, it was literally changed, I think, that my outlook on life. It was like a weight lifted. And actually, every rugby from that moment was so different because I wasn't chasing something. I always had it. Nobody could ever take it away. And I think I got a lot more joy from the rest of my career because...
Oh, right. I'd hate to look at the other side. If we lost that final, I'm not sure which country would I exile myself to and go and, you know, find a little hole and hide in it.
But you look at the captaincy side is interesting. So Steve Borthwick, you know, I played with Borthwick for a long time. He captained me for a long time. I thought he was an outstanding captain. When you were England manager, you had him as, you know, in your team as captain. He has now had a really tough period in terms of results, really tough autumn, and he switched the captaincy from Jamie George to Maro Itoje. So what do you make of that decision? And again, it's a different captaincy scenario than we're talking about your World Cup. They're in a slump, right?
Yeah, it's interesting, and to actually take it off a player who's, you know, was fit and still there is quite a big call.
24 hours notice as well.
Yeah, it's quite a big call, and you will, you know, I think he said publicly, you know, it's a blow, isn't it? You know, there's a reason. What you know?
Well, we won 4 out of 11 games.
You would take that
under Jamie George as captain. Now, with all due respect, I think we all agree that Jamie George should have been captain of England about 4 years ago, when he was absolutely, in my opinion, at the peak of his powers. And, you know, as much as I love Owen Farrell, and I really do, I think he had enough responsibility playing at 10, and all the best captains in the world tend to be, I mean, not the best captains, but it's just, the nature of the game is the referee every decision is given in and around the breakdown. So why would you not have a forward as captain? And I just feel with Itoje, he's now taken it on. It's a gamble, but it's a gamble that Steve has to take now. He's got to roll the dice.
And as gambles go, Maro is a low-risk player. I mean, OK, there's the odd penalty, but he is, touch wood, likely to play 80 minutes
he's
most tests.
He's only been subbed twice,
yeah.
I think.
So I wonder if it says to me that I don't think Borthwick doesn't think Jamie George is automatic first choice, and regardless of what anyone said during the autumn, he sees value in having a captain who starts the game and ends the game.
Yes, I mean, that's the big thing.
Captains that go off like 60 minutes.
Yeah,
it's great. You're watching it going, well, that's you know, it's like anything. The first 60 minutes is to give yourself a chance to win the last 20, unless you're winning the game easily.
You want your best players on the field at the end of the game.
Yes, so you need, you know, that's when those decisions, and you don't get that many of those really crucial decisions in your career that you sort of win or lose a game on, but they do happen, but you need that guiding presence there, and at the end of the game, that's when you do need your leadership, because that's when you know, everything's. If you're in a tight game, the pressure is immense, isn't it? In that last 20, and the longer it goes, the bigger every decision is. the tense, the whole thing gets tight. That's when you need if your captain's off. Yeah, I've not got that. I mean, it's been happening for 10 plus years, hasn't it?
Yeah.
20, even longer. Everyone goes off. You go, well, mate, this is it. This is the moment.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting as well with the discipline side of it, because Itoje is, he's a brilliant player.
Well, like we didn't give penalties away.
Well, no, we didn't. No. What I'm saying is, being captain normally buys you one or two.
At least I don't chin anyone.
Buys you one or two. Get out of jail. Do you know what? I must tell this, because Clive Woodward. We obviously had an issue with discipline going into one Six Nations Championship. I can't remember which one it was. Clive gave us a videotape, and I think it was. He gave it to me, which obviously was basically all he needed to do. And he said, Lawrence, I think you need to discuss discipline with the group, with the team. So I thought I had a video recorder in my room at the time. Obviously, had a bar and a microwave and a fridge. Anyway, tripod. Put the tape in. Steady. I put the tape in, and basically it was about 38 penalties that England had given away in the last 6 games, and a third of them I gave away. The other third Jason Leonard gave away, and the other third Martin Johnson gave away. And I thought to myself, Clive's quite smart here, because I don't really need to discuss this with the team. So I picked up the phone to Jono, and Jason said, "Little meeting in my room." And we put the tape in, and we went, I think we need to rein it in a little bit.
Adjust that.
But what I'm saying is, as a captain, that relationship with the referee, and I mean, Jono, funny enough, we did something for the World Cup final where they made us sit and watch a replay of the World Cup final. Now, for 21 years, I'd been carrying the burden of thinking that I gave away the final penalty that sent the game into extra time.
Yeah. You didn't?
I didn't until we watched it. Well, I thought I had.
Who did?
No, the penalty.
No. You said to me, you unburdened me.
The penalty that went into extra time was at scrum. Yeah. The penalty that went to level during extra time was possibly me. But you watch it.
Possibly.
If you watch it,
I think Australia, if you watch it, you go, well, Australia are far more than us in that. It was Andre Watson, wasn't it?
'97 Lions tour. The things I remember are I was 17.
Yeah, but going to school.
In between, studying.
Oasis Wonderwall. That's
Oasis
what you remember.
Wonderwall.
Yeah.
I remember Jerry's. I remember John Bentley being on the wing, scoring one good try, and he's lived off it ever since. But he's done more.
Northern Transvaal?
The Transvaal.
I remember Jerry's drop goal, and I remember the Living with Lions DVD, which is
the greatest.
Still one of the greatest, if not the greatest, sporting documentary I ever watched. But was it as monumental for you guys as it was?
That's one of the reasons why I wanted to play rugby.
Yeah.
Watching that DVD, I think was the best rugby documentary you'll ever get.
Yeah,
and I watched it and thought,
I'd say
that's what I want.
In terms of experience, it's the best. It's the best rugby experience I've ever had in my life. Really.
I guess it was pro, but it was full of lads who'd been
the last amateur, first professional tour, really.
Yeah, I think a couple of things. I think years later, when you hear a lot of people say that about that video, which was great because it was genuine fly on the wall. We were so used to them being there, which sounds ridiculous. I remember when they came in with a camera and we're going to be here, and they said, if you want us to go, we'll go. And you just got used to them being there. And when I went down to look at the tape, look at the edit, and they've got footage inside the changing room for the first test where it is nervous beyond, you're going out to play them. And we were very, very inexperienced.
The Telfer speech.
Yeah, all
and
of
the
it.
net, when he's put the net out over the chairs.
The scrummaging sessions you had as well.
Well, the whole thing is just... I mean,
powerful, isn't it?
So lucky to have it because for us it's a reminder because you know what it's like. Years later, you go, Jim gave us a great speech. You wouldn't be able to recall to have it on video. But also on that tour, I always say if I could be anywhere in my career again, go back, I'll be on that tour.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Not only with the Lions, but with the rugby we played was some of the rugby we played was absolutely phenomenal.
And the midweek team were phenomenal. Whatever the team was, it wasn't the midweek team.
I remember I played. My first game was the third game where we played Western Province in Cape Town. And you know it's like when you're on tour, first game's big, and then the first big provincial game. So we're playing them at Newlands, and. We were scoring tries, they were scoring tries. I was trying to talk to the team at one point, I couldn't breathe. It was that fast. The game was that fast and that furious. And I was fit.
Is it?
In Cape Town. The game was
7
that
feet
fast.
above sea level.
He's always at altitude. Have you not noticed?
And in the second half, I was talking to Ian about this when we had that catch-up the other year. Rob Howley made a break. The game got a bit less short, and Rob's got it, and he's just gone across, and he's straightened up, and he just turned on the jets.
Yeah.
And he's gone straight to the middle of them. And I was near him when he made the break, and then I'm 20 yards away all of a sudden, and he's flying up the pitch, and they all sort of converged on him, and he's just thrown one off his left hand 25 yards to Ian, who's just ran onto it, straight onto it, and he still needed finishing, and he scored it in the
Remember that
corner.
one?
You remember it? I remember watching that live going, oh, we can play. I mean, that's world class. That's proper, because, you know, that's like, these guys can play. And Yai scored it, and his face was like 50%, yeah, this is what we do. And 50%, oh, that was tasty.
Lungs just deposited.
And we put, I think 38 points on, whatever. And, you're thinking, oh, we've got some players here.
Yeah.
You know, we've got some players.
I mean, South Africa hadn't had much exposure. They'd only come out of post-apartheid.
Well,
we were the first team in England in 94, 97. They were world champions. But I just remember the group that was assembled, both the coaching staff and the playing staff and the backroom staff, was just immense. And Fran Cotton, who'd won, the only two teams that had ever won in South Africa were the 74 Lions
and the 96
All Blacks. So it's not an easy thing to do. And I think when Fran Cotton turned up and gave his first speech,
Geach and James, just a great combination.
Yeah. And the rugby IP there was incredible.
And then to have those guys who come back from league with their knowledge, not just defence. Everyone talks about defence of the league, but actually attack. They were clinical. If you're playing professional rugby league, you get a chance to score, you don't score.
So was it? It was Gibbsy. It was
Alan
Tate,
John Bentley.
Bateman.
Yeah.
Alan Bateman.
Yeah.
And Scotty Quinnell had come back.
Yeah.
And I remember.
I love watching John Bentley on that tour.
Yeah. Ventos had toured with England in 1988. I'd watched Alan Tate play for Scotland in the '87 World Cup. So these guys, they've been around a long time. They had vast experience, and you gave an opportunity to score. And Bentos was just vocal. I mean, the rugby teams then, the backs never said anything. The backs were very quiet on the field generally.
It was beautiful.
Yeah. Well, it didn't, did they? It was a different. The backs were generally pretty quiet. Certainly in the England team, they weren't vocal. You suddenly had Bentos out on the training field, smashing people with a bag. You get out on the field, and he's going to guys, I'm going to terrorise you. He's shouting to James Small, I'm going to terrorise you. James Small's going, do you know what I do? I'm the lunatic on the field, not you.
Do you know what I do remember is that Ian McGeechan decided to take Will Greenwood, who was uncapped.
Yes. It's an incredible selection.
And let's just bring it forward to this
incredible
tour.
selection.
Martin Johnson was captain and
never captained the club or England.
Never captained a club, so it was a big call.
Oh, wow.
And then Will Greenwood was an uncapped player, and so who do we think is the right person to captain this tour coming up?
Yeah.
And is there a Will Greenwood? Because the majority of the team will come from the Six Nations, but there's no reason why you can't go outside of that. Andy Farrell's got a remit. Are we all agreeing that Caelan Doris, if he performs well?
People are saying Doris or
It's not
Maro,
easy to
aren't
get capped
they?
now, though, isn't it? A lot of people are capped early because they don't want to lose them to another country. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Squads are bigger. I mean, in '93, I went.
Doris, I agree with you.
I went on a Reserve as Alliance tour, and you could only pick guys off the Five Nations because watching a club game then was so different to what they play now. There was no Europe. It was very difficult. So all you could do was go, who play well in the Six Nations? Now, in '97, we had Europe, and they could pick some guy. That was an incredible selection. Yeah. Could pick some. Squads are bigger now. I think for someone to come in from outside of a squad won't happen because anyone who's any good will be in a squad somewhere. It'll have had some.
The squads are so big.
Yeah, and they're all getting on the field.
Well, I think Jack
Field.
Willis has got a great chance of going, and he's not in the England squad.
Well,
So there is one or two. But
Those guys who are.
Yeah, he has been.
Those guys who are abroad. But the only thing with Doris, I always think Will Carlin was unlucky never to captain the Lions. Because
That's what he says.
well, if you think about it, if you had a good year in Lions year, you were Lions captain. Will did consecutive Grand Slams in '91, '92, and the team I went, 93, I remember debut, had 7 England forwards in the pack.
Yeah.
And Gav was captain. Gav was a great captain, and fully deserved it. But there was a big England bias at that point. and not having an England captain, I can see why.
Yeah.
Because
Who took his place? Was it Gibbsy? Scott Gibbs?
well, Will played the first test and Gibbsy came in.
Yeah.
I think when we just before '97, France won the the Five Nations, and we finished second. And you know, Jono's right. If you play well against your opposite number, we had 18 players from England picked on that.
Yeah, but it didn't
on that Lions tour in '97.
It didn't feel like that because, in a way, to me, because like you say, Will Greenwood was in there and he hadn't played in the Six Nations. England's starting centres in the Six Nations neither went on that tour, which was Will and Phil de Glanville, and we took Jerry and we took Will Greenwood. Yeah. Gomez played 9 for England that year. Yeah. And we had 3 England scrum halves on that tour, and none of them was Gomez. So it was a hell of a selection, and a guy like Nick Beale went on that trip.
Yeah.
You know, who was a hell of a player, but hadn't played that much.
Well, how did you find out? Can I just ask that? Because obviously now, like
CFX.
Was it? Pigeon?
Yeah.
Was it a letter through? Was it a phone call? Did you find out?
I got in '97. I got a phone call, so I was captain.
Yeah.
Fran phoned me. But I think most guys was a letter. It was a letter, wasn't it?
It was a letter. Do you know, it was actually that wonderful thing of handwritten letter. Beautiful.
But
you still got it?
Yes, I have somewhere.
But remember, they in '97, because it was the Brave New World. It was on TV in the morning on Sky Sports, and we all went to the ground in the morning because we had 6 Leicester players, I think. Yeah. Roundtree.
None of us knew until we heard it on TV.
So we went and did a press conference at the ground in the morning, and then played you guys in the evening. In the midweek, played midweek game against Wasps in the evening.
Literally just sitting watching TV to whether your name comes up.
Yeah, and it's actually lovely because there's that. Well,
that's all right if it comes
up. Lovely. There's either 2 emotions, isn't there? Unbridled joy or complete misery.
Jono, let's talk about your time as England coach. I'm going to preface this with a memory of mine, which was the opening ceremony at Twickenham. They did this thing where it was almost the stadium went dark and they put a spotlight on one representative at a time. And I think from my memory is the spotlight hit you and the place went absolutely mad. And there were people crying. Like, I don't know if you're aware of this. There were people in tears. It was
it's a national treasure.
And I was sitting.
About what?
I think among other
treasure.
people. Yeah, what's he doing? I was sitting, I remember sitting with Martin Bayfield at the time, and we both sitting there, and we both looked at each other, and everyone had tears in their eyes. This really lovely moment, and it was almost like it then occurred to me because you're concentrating on what you're doing and what am I going to say here, and when are we on and when are we off, and all that. It occurred to me that you might not have been back in the spotlight at Twickenham since you were England head coach. So do you remember? Yeah, do you remember that moment?
You don't get a walk past, do you?
No.
Like walking past the back of the
little double-decker bus around the pitch.
Do you remember when you accepted the job as being the coach? I think when you were thinking about it, and you and I had a phone call, and I think you said to me, "What do you reckon?" And I said, I was, it was an amazing because you'd only been retired for
a couple of years,
3 years. So I don't think that. I mean, no disrespect, that would only have ever been offered to you because under no circumstances would they give the job to someone who's only been out the game for not even out 3 years. Do you know what I mean? It's very unusual to get the top job, but I mean England have made a habit of doing that actually a few times since then. But
so when you look back.
But he phoned me and he said, "What do you reckon?" And I said, "Well,
give us a job."
Don't.
Give us a job. I was very honest. I said, "Well,
do you need a social secretary?"
I said, who you going to pick as your coaches?" And the question I really wanted to ask you is, you walked into a setup that already had England coaches there.
Yeah, a few.
We
got Smithy.
And I think that's quite a difficult environment to walk into.
Well, I knew the guys were already in there.
But you feel immense loyalty, etc. But sometimes it's nice to go in there and actually have put your own stamp on it immediately. But your record for England as England coach is actually.
That's all right. We won the championship that year. We had that first year actually. We had quite a few of the older guys come back and did all right. We beat France, didn't we, at Twickenham at the end of it. And then the next year, they were all gone. I remember the Lions went in 09, and we came back for the autumn in 09, and we had something like 11 of the team that had beaten France at the end of the previous season weren't available. So that 9 autumn was tough. 2010 Six Nations, I'm trying to remember lost to Ireland and we beat Wales. And then we started getting a few new good young players through. Ben Youngs came through, Dan Cole came in. Youngsy went to Australia. You went on that trip, didn't you? We beat them in the second. We beat Australia away in the second test. After not that was a big win. And actually, then we beat Australia again, didn't we? Chris Ashton came through. He'd come through at the end of that. Yeah, Benny Foden had come in, and actually developed quite a few. So it wasn't a bad team at the start of 2011, and we only lost we nearly got went for the Grand Slam, didn't we? In Ireland, got beaten, won the championship.
Yeah, there's a presumption amongst at least the English rugby public that there's a couple of things which are the experience, because it didn't end how you would have designed
it. Like it ended, but it wasn't.
It was scarred you, and it's a massive. It's a sporting tragedy that you're no longer involved with the England team, or with English rugby. Do you view it that way?
No, not really. No, it's. I mean, at the end of it, we got beaten by France, didn't we, in the quarter final? Who were a decent team. We'd beaten them in the Six Nations, where we lost a close quarter final and went out. They nearly won the World Cup with a relatively inexperienced team. So. In those terms, we didn't qualify for 4 years later. We didn't even get to the pool stages, did we? With a more experienced team, potentially.
So, no, in hindsight, do you think you would have... I remember you said to me, and I would have done exactly the same, I'm going to take this job because I don't know if I'll ever get offered it again.
Yeah,
I mean, but ideally, would you have had a bit... It would have been ideal if you'd have been in coaching a bit longer before you took the job.
Ideally.
Yeah. And you had such high standards and values as a person and as a player yourself. I feel like maybe you held a lot of the players in that squad to your standards and values, and I think you were let down by a few of them.
Ultimately, you get in the papers for being drunk and disorderly, right?
Oh, don't worry, I know that, mate.
So
tell him, mate.
We've all been on a rugby trip. The first one, the Ireland lads have been into that same bar and been a lot looser by all accounts, but never made the papers.
Yeah, so, Brian Driscoll was stretching out.
Yeah. So it's one of those where you're just going, guys, these things happen. It's just now all over the papers. These things we've been on rugby tours. These things happen. It just gets made into this. Once the cat's out the bag and they're all over you, they're all over you.
Especially in New Zealand, because you are a threat to national security.
We said to the players, just rein it in because you're in New Zealand, bang, 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 bang. Don't do this, this and this. And some of them did that and that.
What goes through your head then when you get the knock on the door to say, boss?
The cat's out the bag. You're dealing with
someone's jumped off.
Your squad of...
Someone's jumped off the pier by a ferry.
Yeah. Well, you might as well at that point, because you might as well at that point. We're out of the tournament, you might as well jump off the ferry. But it was just like one thing after another then. But then the cat's out, and they're all over it. You got all the tabloid media out there. So you're done. You're almost done because you can't fight that at that point.
When you win, the likelihood is you're going to go out and have a few beers and enjoy yourself, and no one really minds. When you lose, I said, you're not going to go out. We're going to go upstairs and discuss why we lost, who was responsible, and that's it.
But all the English rugby public presume that episode was sufficiently scarring that is why we don't see you on the front line of English rugby anymore. Is that the case, or are you just happy watching from a distance?
Yeah, I mean, when you say it wasn't a great period, but it's like you in your life you have things that go incredibly well, and I've been incredibly lucky to do it. If you said to me you're going to do this in your career when you're 11 years old,
decent.
No, it's not going to happen to you.
Get paid for it.
So, but you know, you have ups and downs in your life. It's just part of it. So, scarring, it wasn't great, but you know, it doesn't. God, there's worse things can happen to people than that.
And you are still involved in rugby because your son is now.
Well, you go coaching kids the last few years.
What are you like as a sideline rugby dad? Because we've got to be honest, when you turn up on I turned up at Richmond, and there was Jason Leonard and Michael Lynham, and we all arrived at the same time, and albeit they were in the under-8s, it's the first time ever I could actually be there on a Sunday to watch my son play, Enzo, and I bumped into Jason, he had Jack and Lewis Liner, and we gave it to one of the dads and said, see how you get on with those three. And talk about chip off the old block. I mean, Jason's son Jack just went around punching every child in the face. Lewis Liner could spiral kick off both feet, and Enzo spent the whole time cheating, basically. Is your son? Do you see the traits of you as a player in your son, Henry?
Well, he's got. I mean, of course, he's got genes. He's a better athlete than I ever have been.
Oh, yeah.
He's got more. He's got speed. He's got some speed, so he's got that obviously from the maternal genes. But yeah, look, it can be difficult. It depends how you're going, doesn't it? If things, I mean, if they get injured or whatever.
Is he second row?
No, he's a
Do you think my son said to me, Dad, if it's all right
He
with
could
you,
go in there,
if
but
it's all right with you, I'm not going to be a professional rugby player. I've got ambitions slightly higher than that.
Well, they're going to do.
Yeah.
I think.
Is he gonna,
Some people have the misconception that you want your kids to do what you did. That your kids are always going to find the way that they're going to hopefully find something they love to do, and do it with a passion. That's all you can ask them to do. My boy seems to, he played a lot of football. I encourage him to play a lot of football because I think it's really good for him. But then he said, I want to play rugby. I want to go back and play rugby, and off you go.
Are you relaxed on the sidelines or? No.
I can be. Yeah, you can. You definitely. I've had my moments, definitely. Yeah. But it's look. They're also kids as well. You're young. You're watching it, and we did the thing sort of seriously and properly, and you can get drawn into that. You know, when I was coached him at club rugby and when he was younger, and you've got the whole mix. You've got the kids who were watching rugby at home. They want to learn and do anything, and you've got some kids who don't, and you have to understand that.
John, have you offered yourself up for the dad's game at all?
Oh, I'm not.
Not yet, anyway.
No.
Imagine.
You know,
I can imagine, yeah.
I'll bring my mates.
You just want, when you see them having fun with their mates with rugby, that's when
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. They're the memories you'll have of being with your mates, doing all, and they're so. I mean, he went to South Africa with his school. I mean, you're watching him going.
Oh, what an experience.
So they're at Loftus. I'm getting photos. They're on Loftus #1 pitch, training at Loftus. They let them on there.
Yeah, it's a wicked stadium.
And the people are going, oh, that's lovely. I'm going, lovely? You jammy bastards.
Yeah.
I had to be 25 before I was allowed to play on Loftus.
Yeah, got your head kicked in.
And the Springboks were training. They watched them train. Fair play, the Springboks. They had a photo with them all sat alternately in the stand at Loftus.
That's him there. That's his son.
That's it, do it.
At 15, they get to do that. I mean,
That's
unbelievable.
wicked.
John, thanks, mate. That is all we've got
problem.
time for. Loved having you. Thanks very much.
Can I eat the ginger nuts now?
Eat the ginger nuts, yeah.